Welcome back to Unemployed with Anna Roisman. You know it, you love it. It's the podcast for everyone. I don't care if you have a job or if you don't have a job. Today, I have half a job. This is my job today. So you know what? Sometimes you make a lot of money and other days you put the money into the work. That's what we love about this podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today. I've known him for years. He's super funny. He's a very, very funny stand-up comedian. He's an actor. Maybe you know him from a little app called TikTok. Also, he is the host of the podcast The Downside with Gianmarco Soresi. We've got Gianmarco Soresi with us. What's up?
Oh, hello.
Hello. I should have said Jeff Goldblum's with us today because you do it really. He does a good job.
I think it's. I have to retire it. I think it reached its pinnacle. I have to wait until he lets me play his son, or Lifetime lets me play him in a movie.
Yeah, I love that. I hope that happens for you.
It's the only impression I can do. It's not my forte, impressions. Very bad at them generally. I even found an agent. I mean, nothing will ever come of it, but I found an impressions agent in LA.
No.
Who, like, if someday there'll be some weird party, some billionaires will be like, we want to recreate Jurassic.
Yes.
I'll look for this guy.
And they're like, I have the client. I love that. An impressions agent. God, the industry surprises me and amazes me every day, you know? It really does. There's a dog agent. I don't know if you knew that in New York.
Ooh.
Specifically dogs.
The craziest, when my friend was pregnant, there was an agent for, like, you know, when you're 6 months to 9 months, they need extras that are pregnant.
Amazing.
I love
an agent for everything.
It's all there.
So specific. The 7-month pregnancy agent. Just, you know, she finds you the one in New York.
Yeah. That's
great. How have you been? How is your life? I haven't seen you since before the world turned upside down.
I know. It's been good. I'm back on the road, just hoping that there's not another shutdown.
Right.
But I'm feeling healthy and yeah, it's been cool. Like, I was literally, before the pandemic hit, I was like starting to have like a road life.
Okay.
And I had like 4 weekends in a row. I had all this merch to sell, and then it all got canceled. And now I'm just getting back on it. Some of the gigs pay well. The margins are very slim.
Sure.
And the lifestyle is just it's an exhausting lifestyle to like go to 3 different places, 3 different weekends in a row. You're like,
yeah.
And quite making enough money to take the Uber back from JFK. So you're taking it back at 1 a.m, get home at 4, and it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah. But you're doing it for the art, you know, and that's what's important.
Yeah, that mall in Oklahoma City, that I'm doing it for. No, it's very enjoyable. I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that it all got canceled. I feel like we've talked to a lot of people who are like had tours planned and had lives planned to travel, and then they were like, now what?
I got very lucky. Like, Zoom comedy I was
going to ask
money.
If you did, the Zoom shows, because I love doing them.
I honestly, I had to adjust to a much lower income because December, I was just part of a lot of companies where they'd throw me in on these holiday parties, and I'd go and I'd do 15 minutes on Zoom, and I could do 6 in a day and each paid, $250. Or like, I did one college and it's $1,400 for 50 minutes from my living room. And I'm doing another college, same money pretty much, in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And it's like, it's you get spoiled, but I'm like, oh, I have to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin to do what I did in my living room for the same money. So it's a strange feeling. I'm glad to be not doing as much Zoom, but it was good.
It does spoil you, for sure. I work for another app, and I get to host shows from my apartment, and I do feel that battle where I'm like, oh, I miss being on stage, but what I'm going to make at Union Hall tonight versus what I'm going to make going to my couch and being, my charming self is a world of difference. So, unfortunately, sometimes you got to pick.
We'll see what happens to those companies. I got cast to host a show for Rush Ticks.
Nice.
I did one, and then they were like, well, now it's going to be paid based on how many people show up. And I was like, oh no, what happened? Like, there's all these companies that we'll see which ones survive.
Yeah.
I still have a couple Zoom gigs. There's still some places doing them, but a lot of those companies, I'm sure, are really feeling the squeeze and kind of looking at the Delta variant like, ooh, Delta Plus. Okay, maybe.
I know. It's looming over all of us right now. Like, even when you smile and you're like, I'm back on the road. I hope. I'm like, I hope so too.
Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
anytime you think about going somewhere, you're like, will I be going? Like, I booked a hotel the other day for my boyfriend and I for a wedding we have to go to in beginning of October. And because, you have to like secure the room for the weekend or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And like 2 hours later, I just like stopped in my tracks and I was like, I should have asked about a cancellation policy. Like,
sure. I have a wedding my girlfriend and I are going to in Hawaii in November. And like, and I spent a lot of work. I got a couple of gigs in Hawaii and I'm like, man, I hope this all goes through.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time spent.
I hope so too. Hawaii, I'm jealous. I'm White Lotus jealous.
It's a big trip for this. It's an old middle school friend, my only real friend from like my childhood. But it's one of these things, everyone there, they're not in the arts. They are wealthy people. Mm-hmm. And I'm showing up like, all right, guys, any discounts on the rooms?
Right.
They're going to have me do a little speech, but I'm excited. Have you ever been to Hawaii?
No, I've always wanted to go. Oh,
me neither. We'll see.
I was supposed to go for a wedding, right when the pandemic hit.
In November. No.
The beginning. It got canceled. I lost all the money. Sorry.
They're making some of them are so rich, and I'm just like, I just want them to know. I just want them to acknowledge that me going there is a lot of my net, it's a portion of my net worth, a significant, you could see it on a pie chart and whoa, that's a big slice of pie. That's too much for one person.
Well, hopefully you say it on a couple different podcasts. They'll be like, wow, this is special that he's showing up. If they're supporting your career, they're going to know. They're going to hear it.
For sure.
Speaking of your girlfriend, I didn't know that you were even dating. This was a pandemic surprise for me. And I know both of you and I think you're both great. And I was like, I love this pairing. I'm thrilled to see this online.
Really was not. I would not say that I was looking for a relationship. I've been a bachelor for a long time.
Congrats.
But we both moved to the Lower East Side around the same time in August. So she's like a block away.
Oh, wow.
And, she's a comedy manager, a very successful comedy manager.
Yeah.
And, I first met her and I was like, oh, right. I recently left my manager. What's going on here? And, but no, it went a very different direction.
Yeah.
And, it's like 10 months now.
Amazing.
And it's
a
like
lot.
pandemic and living a block away from each other. Like those first 6 months were intense.
Yeah, I bet. But
intense.
I also, for those who don't live in New York, if you both live in the same area, in the same borough, like, that is a win-win. I mean, like, if you can't date someone from Lower East Side, like someone in like, Washington Heights or Fort Greene, like these places are very far from where you are. So I love that
if she lived in Queens, like this would still be a casual, not monogamous relationship. Still.
That happened to my ex-boyfriend and me when we started dating. It was like he lived 10 blocks away from me in the city. And so we would we could share a car home from like a show or something. Like it was just convenient at the time. I don't think that's what made us date, but it was helpful for sure. I had dated people in other boroughs.
What made us date. In this case, that's what made us date. And, but yeah, no, it's going great. It feels good.
Good. I'm happy. I love the content too. I mean, like
it's very
when
nice.
your relationship status changes especially as a comic, I feel like, you have a whole new field to play with. And I think it's fun. I like your jokes and your tweets.
Yeah, I still figure out on stage because there's sometimes on stage, there's jokes that like only make sense if I'm single. And so I'm like been figuring it out. And like the way I do it on stage now, this sometimes doesn't work. It's too mean for I say, I'm still figuring out when to tell the audience I'm in a relationship. I find it works best after I've slept with the audience member.
Right.
Sometimes the audience is like not on board for that joke.
I love talking about my boyfriend on stage now.
It is a good time.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely learned though, because I'm kind of a like burn it all to the ground. I'll reveal anything about my family. And then when you're dating someone seriously, there is a new actor, and it felt like a new thing where I was like, oh, that's gonna hurt her feelings if I say that. So I just wait till I'm on the road and she doesn't hear it.
Mm-hmm. I have a whole different set. If my family shows up to a show, it's a different set. It's, all different jokes.
I dig in. I remember once it was so mean. Like I'm clearly mad at my parents. There's no question. But I remember like my mom saw me in DC, and it was the first time I'd done the joke on stage where it was like, the only way my mom knew how to show me love was with Hostess cupcakes. Like when I got 100% on my spelling test, she let me have a Hostess cupcake for dessert, which is why even now as an adult, when I do something well, I get this intense craving for a better mom. And I was like, there was something in me that I was like, I'm gonna say this with my mom in the audience, and I don't think it hurts her. I don't think it hurts her. The only time my mom ever got mad, once I have a bit about like her giving her boyfriend a hand job in high school. He became an agent, and the joke is that I gave the agent a hand job. He said we gave similar hand jobs. But I used her maiden name. Her name's Irene. I say Eileen in my stand-up.
Very good.
But I used her maiden name, Rothkrug. She's the Jewish side of my family. And she was like, you were calling me a slut. And I was like, you think I was calling you a slut for giving a hand job in high school? And I'm like, Mom, yesterday I called you a bad mother. I don't care about that.
She's like, this one hurts more, okay? I didn't plan on this. I love that. So I like to take it back to our jobs, okay? Obviously, you're a comedian now. You do this full time, right? This is...
Yes. I mean, many streams. But yes, I would.
Absolutely. As a comedian, I would say I make money doing comedy the least. But, as an actor, as a host, as a voiceover, whatever else comes in, you make enough to say you're a comedian, right? At least you figure it out. But I want to take it back to like teenage years. What was like the first job you ever had?
So I did like well, first let me say up front. My parents had some money. I'm a bit spoiled.
Okay.
And I want to be like, I've tried to be upfront. I knew I didn't have student loans. I had parents giving me weird allowances, dad with a lot of guilt, mom, stepdad, all sorts of things. But I did work in high school. I worked 2 restaurant jobs. One, it was about the same time. One was called Bamboulet in Washington, D.C. It shut down. And the other was called Mimi's, and then it was called Stars, and it was a singing restaurant. So I was a singing waiter.
Like Ellen's Stardust Diner in New York City.
But a much lower grade. Like the people at Stardust Diner, they are sometimes Broadway performers.
Yeah, they're good.
Broadway shows. And they're very talented. They're too talented for that job. And this was like a low grade. It was in DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. And it was. I mean, it's a gig. And I sang very classical Rodgers and Hammerstein musical theater songs. That's kind of what I was okay at. It was surreal because you would sing a big long ballad and then you'd finish and people would be like, why haven't you filled my water? And I was like, well, I just sang. You just saw me perform.
I thought you were going to say the opposite, where they see you perform and they're like, why are you serving me water? Look at you. Go to New York and get on stage. You're too talented to serve me French fries.
But that's what's sad. If you sing and they go, okay, we know why you're here. There you go. You're great at so yeah, it's one of these things where it's like it is your day job, but it is the thing where people be like, don't quit your day job.
Right.
Like you're living your dreams in the midst of serving. Which honestly, if I had to serve, I mean, I wonder if anyone's ever tried it with stand-up comedy. It would be very tough.
Very.
But it would be very fun as a waiter to kind of roast. if you could kind of roast the people that
Good
were
crowd
being
work.
dicks to you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Be
your
like,
tips are going to suffer. Some
Right?
of those tips are going to be bad.
yeah, because you're going to try and do some crowd work and you're going to know your table and their order, right? So you're just going to offend gluten-free at seat number 4 and, you know, start talking about her. She's going to be like, this guy, fuck this guy.
But it was both good gigs to have. I mean, everyone should have to be a server at some point.
Absolutely. I
because
say that all the time.
It's just one of these gigs that, for whatever reason, people like, they take out their anger on their server, and you truly don't understand until you, as a 16-year-old boy, asking the scary chef who doesn't like you to speak to him at all to make a modification, and he's mad at you.
Right.
That you realize, it's just shooting the messenger. People just shoot the messenger, and that's what the waiter is, ultimately.
Yeah. That's so true. Chefs hated modifications. They hate it. No cheese on a burger. I'm like, your life's easier. And it still blows their mind. Like, they can't handle it. I had so many angry chefs like that who I worked for.
Yeah, because they don't want to be hearing musical theater songs.
Yeah.
Mediocre Broadway rejects singing as they cook. And the working conditions, there's so much I remember like every time I get a lemon or a lime, I'm like, no one washed their hands when they touch this lemon or lime. This is like a vile thing. I remember I always remember at Bamboulé, which closed, the plates were insanely hot. And it was like, kind of like you joke, like, oh, they're so hot, but they fucking burned your fingers.
Oh, no.
Wildly inappropriate.
Ugh. And you have to always have a smile on. You're like, your hands are burning off. That sucks.
Oh, man.
And Bamboulé, almost everyone, staff, cook, owners, were primarily speaking Spanish, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish. And so I would definitely mess up occasionally. I would mess up some orders. Yeah. And it felt very overwhelming. Very overwhelming job. And both those gigs, I'm pretty sure at the time in DC, paid like $2.50 an hour.
You made all your money in tips.
All tips.
Yeah.
And these restaurants, I just remember you'd work a slow night and they charged you. Bamboulé, they give you, this is the one part I did like, was they gave the meal. What do they call it? Family meal?
Yeah, family meal. Before your shift, you get like, it's usually like a meat surprise or like whatever wasn't cooked the day before.
Yeah, Bamboulé, I think they did like cool. The chef was trying shit out.
Okay.
But Stars, you just ordered from the menu and you got half off. To not give your servers a full meal at a restaurant is insane. Yeah. Insane.
I worked at fancy steakhouses in New York, and at the end of my like 8-hour shift and I'm starving, I'd order like a Caesar salad, and they'd still like, which is lettuce to them. And because I was cheap on the I was like, I'm not ordering a fucking filet, and they'd be like half off, and I was like, I still have to pay fucking $8.50 for this Caesar salad when I worked the whole night. It's terrible.
Unforgivable.
I wanted to ask you, because I forgot about this before. You mentioned your love of musical theater, and this is what happened. I saw a tweet from you about doing a musical. It wasn't high school though, right? And then The Rock commented on this, and I forgot to bring up your congratulations on your viral news this week with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. What? I was just making a light joke, a very lighthearted joke. He explained his shower regimen, and I explained that there's been talk of celebrities showering and not showering. And he clarified he showered 3 times a day, once in the morning cold, once midday medium, and then once at the end of the day hot. And I jokingly said, this is weirder than not showering. And it was not showering that was weird. It was the rigidity of 3 times a day. And it was very
at different temperatures, too.
At different temperatures. And he commented it's not weird at all and broke it down. And
you really got through to him. I mean...
Someone must have tagged him. I mean, it's amazing he had time to do it between all those showers to get back to his fans. And I started getting messages, calling me stinky, calling me musty, which is very funny because, like, I've had my feelings hurt online for sure.
Sure.
Stinky is one of those where I'm like, I'll just go shower then, or I'll go put on deodorant. Easily solvable. This is not a permanent. You're not talking about my face or my personality, things that I cannot shift. So I pivoted immediately and I reminded The Rock that he saw me, and we both went to the University of Miami, and he came to a production of Hello Dolly I was in. And I've always wanted to talk to him about it. I think years ago I tweeted at him saying, you saw me. And he didn't get back to that. But I guess with the shower thing, enough immediate attention was surrounding it that he wrote this very sweet, very kind about seeing the production, and he thought it was wonderful and lovely. And I remember when he saw it, he gave a standing ovation. We weren't like getting standing ovations for these college shows, but The Rock stood up.
Wow.
And I think just a lover of the arts.
He's
I'm
like
so
such a nice guy and so clean.
I'm so glad you made that connection. You were like, all right, cool. We've done the shower bit. Hey, remember when you saw me perform?
Yeah. And some people were like, oh, look at him backpedal. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? You want to fight with The Rock? Be like, no, it is weird. No, you are weird. No, I go, oh, cool. I'm talking to the fucking Rock. I was a big wrestling fan too, back when I was a kid. So all very cool.
I love that.
I'm still getting a couple stray, stinky. I go whenever I get a message from an unknown person on Twitter, it's someone going like, "Wash your ass, white boy," and I'm like, oh, and I just say, "Okay, I will."
What a weird way to insult someone.
I'll wash it. I don't disagree. The idea that I would disagree with showering, I don't. I'm a big shower.
Thanks for telling. That's really what we just wanted to make sure you are showering at this point. You know,
I know. Well, we were supposed to do this in person, and after you saw that tweet, you switched to Zoom.
I was like, yeah, hey, how about that Zoom podcast life? Are you doing yours in person?
I've been doing mine in person. Sometimes I do Zoom. It's tough. I have a co-host, and if we're all on Zoom, it's tough. Just the interruptions on Zoom can be tough.
Yeah.
But I think mano a mano, pretty much, it works fine.
Yeah.
You know, did you ever do yours in person, or were you always Zoom?
Yeah, always. I took a couple months off because I was like, I don't know how to do it remotely, like when the pandemic happened. So.
I mean, these are cameras I've installed. I did it all from here, but I was in LA and I did it. I paid for a studio while I was in LA for 2 sessions.
Nice.
And oh my God, they gave me the finished files.
Oh yeah.
It took hours off of my life, like in the good way, of free time. And now I just fantasize about being able to afford a studio. But at the moment, we're operating at a loss, a big fucking loss.
I hear you. Yeah, this is your episode 75 for us. So
hey, congratulations!
Thank you. I don't know. I had
there's a real understanding when people, just hearing the number, I'm like, yeah, I know. That's amazing. Good for you.
That's a lot.
Good for you.
Thank you. All right. So you were doing theater. You were working at this singing restaurant. Did you know you wanted to be an actor when you were that young?
I was actor. I was gung-ho about acting from the beginning. I was at the singing restaurant, and I really was like, I was trying to act those songs.
Right.
I was trying to get people really moved in my apron, singing songs meant for like 50-year-old opera baritones.
Did you go to Miami for musical theater?
I did. I went to University of Miami, BFA in musical theater.
Love it.
Yeah, I regret it. I regret going to school for the arts. I think unless you're going to like NYU or a place where you're going to leave with a shitload of connections.
Yeah.
It's better to exploit your youth and be young. I just remember at 22 with an agent, she's like, no TV credits at 22. And I was like, oh my God, it's too late.
Yeah. You're like, I was in school the last 4 years. How was I supposed to, in Miami? I'm not, able to act on TV.
And the schools were so adamant about you not working just because it made it inconvenient for their curriculum. We had speaking of Hello Dolly, there was a woman and she got onto So You Think You Can Dance. And they were like, but and she was in the ensemble of Hello Dolly. And they were like, but if you do the show, you can't do the ensemble in Hello Dolly. And looking back, I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
She did So You Think You Can Dance, right?
She did do it, yes. And was humiliated, did not get through, and she should have done Hello Dolly instead. Big mistake. But no, she did a great job. I think she's still dancing. she's I'm sure
I was like,
she's
that's a huge show. And also the school, I would think it would draw tons of attention and be like, well, she goes to the University of Miami. Boom, that's on TV. You know, they show her and all of you guys performing together. And it's like, yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah.
That's great for them.
I don't know. I'm very, in my older years, I've become very anti-college.
Yeah,
Poor
I have
siblings
too.
were doing Zoom college for a year, and the money was pretty much the same. And I'm like, you guys were fucking scammed. Fucking scammed.
Yeah.
Scammed.
But that was a good musical theater program. You want to know something? I think I auditioned for it, and I did not get in. My parents didn't want me to go to a music. I didn't end up going to school for musical theater, but there were a couple schools I was like, I want to audition for this school, and that was one of them because my dad went to University of Miami for law school.
Ah.
Yeah, which I think he graduated, but I'm pretty sure he just grew shrooms the whole time and was like a drug dealing law student.
Yeah, well, my sister was there, or she still is there. She's going back, but she had a fun. Like my sister was in a sorority. She sent me a video. Snoop Dogg is passing her a joint, and I'm like, yeah, we had very different experiences of this college.
But I remember auditioning for it, and I love to be tan, and I grew up in Philadelphia, and it was cold, and I remember my mom and I went to Miami, and I laid out that morning before my audition, thinking I'm gonna look so good and tan, and I was like burned, and I was like fully sunburned, and then I probably went in, and I imagined they wouldn't even know what I sang, what I acted, what I did. They were like, this poor girl, like she just fucking baked in the sun all morning.
She'll die if she goes here. She does not have the complexion.
Yeah,
for this
I was
school.
like, I'll make a joke. I was like, I'm from Philadelphia. It's so nice to be out in the palm trees. And they're like, okay.
Those college auditions were brutal, cold. I had one. I auditioned for 8. I mean, I was gonna do it. Like my parents couldn't stop me if they tried. But I went to Cincinnati School of Music, which was another good musical theater. And the head of the school, they called him Bubba. And I like telling this story because I wanted to get back to him. So he came out and he was like friendly but mean and gruff. And he comes out and he's like, "Are you Gianmarco? You're an hour late for your appointment." And I showed him my sheet. I'm trembling, and I'm not a late for important things. And I show him my sheet, and it's clearly I had the wrong information or he had the wrong information. But he was like, "Ugh, fine, let's go." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not getting in here. I don't know what kind of miracle 180 I could pull with this son of a bitch." And it's like, I paid $100. I flew to Cincinnati with my stepfather, who doesn't even like me, to go get a degree that he knows is going to mean he's going to be financially supporting me for 5 more years. And you're going to be an asshole to me?
Oh, no.
Good.
That's funny. Oh, my God. Yeah, I didn't end up doing the BFA thing. I went to BU, and I was a TV major, which...
That's better. That's better.
It is, I think back now, and there was a lot of stuff I learned, like editing and writing, that I learned that I wouldn't have learned singing, Guys and Dolls all day long. But at the time, that's what I wanted to do.
I'm seeing, comedians who have no acting training get the roles that actors would kill for. And no one gives a fuck because cast directors are like, "Oh, you're an actor? We don't care. We want to get someone who specializes in something other than the thing we're hiring them for. That's going to work out." The industry is a joke. It's a disgusting cesspool of...
That's why I wanted you on this. I knew he'd tell it like it is.
Tell it like it is. But I'm really like, I when I went to college, I wanted to go to BFA so fucking bad. And now I'm just like, it is a cottage industry of some teachers who I'm sure are good. I don't want to say that all teachers are bad, but it is filled with teachers who either didn't make it or who maybe participated in the industries in the 80s and the 70s, and they'll say wacky shit to you. Like I had a teacher, she was like, "Oh yeah, when I got back from vacation, I used to call up the casting directors and be like, 'Just so you know, I'm back in town.' And they'd be like, 'Oh, thanks, Susan.' And I'm like, that's not what it is anymore. That's not what it is anymore. You don't get to call casting offices. There's a billion fucking actors out there. And like, if you leave college and you don't know about TikTok and you haven't made a reels and they did not prepare you for the business.
No, not at all. They should have also taught you how to work in a restaurant, I think, because
or file for unemployment, or
Yeah.
any series of things.
yeah, definitely. All right, so you go to Miami, you're acting, you're in Hello Dolly, The Rock is seeing you perform. Did you come to New York right after that, or did you?
So I moved to Philly after I was in an acting company with a teacher who recently passed away. Rest in peace,
sorry.
Wendy Ward, and fantastic teacher, very volatile, which I'm into teaching wise when it comes to teaching acting.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to do it now. I would be very like, I don't give a fuck enough about this class. But at the time, I loved it.
Okay.
And I say that from a place of privilege. She treated the men way better than the women. Women are notoriously treated poorly in acting classes, whether it be by male or female teachers. My theory has always been, and I don't know if this is sexist in its own way, but that I find that women in general are better actors than men. So the bar is insanely high for women in acting classes, where men, if you squeeze out a tear, everyone goes ape shit. They applaud. They say, wow, this man, he took down walls. But for women, it's like they go, they can all cry. They can all emote. And so the teachers just don't appreciate the talent in the room. And that on top of ingrained sexism, blah, blah, all these things that I think.
That's so funny you say that. Now I'm thinking back to all my acting classes where I had to do scenes with a guy and I'm like, why did he do so much better than me in this scene? And the teacher, I was like, we did this and we worked on it together. And it's so true the way you're really saying that. Men
get praised in acting classes because we're just, it seems as like more vulnerable if we show an iota. I had a girlfriend at the time who was an actor, and she was a tremendously talented actor, still is. And I just remember looking back, especially just the difference in the way we were treated. But it was kind of a disaster. This teacher, like, her volatility did not lend itself to like building a company. There were all these people there from Australia. And the plan was to do this show in Philly and then go to Australia as a company and do shows there. Okay. But I think the shows did so badly, not even reviewed badly, like not even reviewed. No, my dad came to a show and he was the only one in the audience. Oh, no. And this is like a 16-person show that is not that good to begin with, like mixes poetry with movement pieces with some good acting, but like just weird. And my dad just sitting, and it was in a church. We moved the pews to set it up. And my I can't even imagine what was going through my father's head. And at one point he went to the bathroom. We just stopped and waited till he got back. It was truly. They're like, hold the show, our audience member. Which happens to be Gianmarco's dad. Thanks for inviting him. so humiliating. My God. And then we ultimately didn't go to Australia. The whole thing was scrapped. She kind of turned on the company and fired some members who were there from Australia. Oh, so no. Where are they gonna go? And it ended up being quite ugly how it all ended. Yeah. But she was a great acting teacher. Brilliant. Not a good businesswoman, great acting teacher. Maybe she needed some kind of partnership with, another company to help her launch this thing. I would not want to be an acting teacher in this day and age. I'm sure many acting teachers are like, there are things that they do that are abusive, or like, James Franco just settled his lawsuit from his Sex on Camera 101 class. Right. That, yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is wild to begin with. But I feel like acting, like part of it is you gotta like get intense with people and like talk about crazy shit. Yeah, and you have to challenge them emotionally. And it's like, you can't even tweet certain things now, let alone like face a person, and anyone could record this and take it the wrong way. And and again, I say it as a place where I feel like I was treated better than most, But I just think it's a very tricky line. I think really teaching the arts. And so when you like bring it into like a college situation where you have to teach everyone, and some people probably should quit freshman year, you know, they audition, and the audition process is grueling. It's also not really enough to determine like, yeah, you should spend the next 4 years not learning any useful skills aside from tap dance.
Right.
And that's a big, I don't know. I don't like it. I think college is just too regimented, and I didn't have any loans, but my God, my poor actor friends who had loans.
Yeah.
You start in this industry where you're making no money doing the thing that you studied to do. No good.
No.
Good.
That's scary. Yeah, I totally hear you. Okay, so that was your first job. It didn't work out. How long did you stay in Philly for?
So I was in Philly, I'd say when I graduated through I'd say like half a year, 3/4 of a year.
Okay.
And then I moved to New York, and I had a couple little odd jobs here and there. I did a little bit of catering now and then. Mm-hmm. Again, this is where parents helping me out a fair amount, but I was pouring that money into those casting director workshops.
Oh, really?
Because I had this acting training. The company did not, again, school didn't really set me up for anything. The company didn't set me up for everything. So how am I going to meet the casting directors?
Right.
I think, again, one of those, I used to defend them back in the day. And in a way, I think they provided an access point. Let's say in theory, you're a good actor.
I did some of them too when I first moved here as well. Because I was like, well, what? I approach those casting directors like collecting Pokemon. I was like, I have to go in every casting director, catch them all. And for those of you who don't know, in New York and LA and like cities where probably Chicago, I don't know, any city that has performing arts, they have these casting director workshops where even if you don't have an agent, you don't have an audition, you can sign up and pay money to go to these like workshops where they'll talk for a while, and then you'll get to meet them one-on-one and like audition for them, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the gist.
I think they are not allowed in LA because the problem is like they say, and they reiterate this however many times they want, that you're not auditioning for them because that's not how it's supposed to work. You should not supposed to be able to pay money to get in the room. However, they would also simultaneously brag about all the people who got brought in their office after seeing the person.
They just list random celebrities and be like, well, we met this person, we met this person. That probably wasn't the time they cast them in something though. They're just using their names like any, Yeah,
and I got some auditions from it. I got my whole first original team from those things. But the problem with them, they're super expensive. Why could I do them? Because my parents had money. So when you want to talk about like problems with diversity, whether it be racial, socioeconomic, or anything, I mean, this is one of the points where it starts. Right. Not starts. College is where it starts. School where it starts. But this is a problem. Mm-hmm. And ideally, I think back in the olden days, as casting directors would they'd go to live theater, they'd go to comedy shows. Now, I think casting directors, in their defense, to speak for them, most of them are not paid sufficiently for that either. They're not paid well to begin with. But with this new system, I knew plenty of casting directors, and this leads to another job. I was a reader for many casting directors, sometimes at these actual places I was then taking classes and got credits, or in person, sometimes unpaid, very inappropriate, or paid $10 an hour. But some of these casting directors were making half their income off these classes.
Yeah, so, I knew that.
Yeah, and then again, they're not delivering on their end of the bargain, which again, you can say they're not supposed to bring you in, but they are. They're supposed to really be looking. And so they're meeting everyone under the fucking sun. They're throwing all these headshots in a trash can. Meanwhile, telling you, make sure you have a headshot, make sure it's new, make sure it's stapled, and then they're throwing it right in the trash.
And you have to go, and I remember the stress of that when I first moved to New York, and I was like, oh my God, I got to print headshots. And they're like, well, you can only print like 600 of these, and it's going to cost you, $700. And I'm like, oh my God, like to print it? Like, can't I go somewhere else? And it's like, no, you need it on that paper. This is the only place that has that paper. It was such a fucking scam. I was like...
Of course. And now it's thankfully that part is kind of I got asked for a headshot recently and I purposely forgot it at home because I was like, no.
Right. No, go online. Look me up on Instagram. Like literally, there are so many ways to see what I look like and print it out.
That's one of the ways though, like you could tell I had a couple meetings after my college showcase. At the end of college, you got to do the showcase for, the bottom of the barrel. Whoever your teachers knew from the 80s. And you could always tell the shitty agents because they would have like an old school office with stacks of headshots all over their desk. And that was a sign that they had, 5,000 clients. And I remember there was this one, I don't give a fuck about artist agency. And you waited an hour and a half to see her, and she took a phone call where she was like, "Hey, you got the job. You're in the national tour of the non-union production of Elf. It's stopping in Pyongyang, North Korea. You see, I'm a great agent. Look at me." And you'd be young, you'd be like, "Wow, I'd love it. I've always wanted to go to Pyongyang." And it's all terrible.
I went in to meet an agent. Wait, you reminded me of the funniest thing. I went in to meet an agent, and I should say it's an agency I did end up working with. Not her specifically, but they make you meet the whole like team or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was way older to the point where she had no computer. And her assistant was like, "We tried her on an iPad. It didn't work out." And I was like, "Oh, this poor girl has to print every breakdown, show them to her. It takes her, 2 weeks to read them? And then the roles are already cast. But whatever." So I had to meet her. And I walk in and I'm like looking around. She has no computer. And I knew this. I was warned about this. And she looks at me and she goes, "So I hear you're funny?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mostly do comedy." And she goes, yeah. Just by looking at you, you'd never work on Treme on HBO. I was like, okay.
Good.
What?
I'm glad we eliminated that one.
She's like, I had a client get on that show yesterday and it's not for you. And I was like, okay. And then she made me stare into she goes, she had dream catchers all over the walls. And she made me stare. She held a dream catcher up and she goes, "I want you to stare into this dream catcher." This is our industry, by the way. This is at a real agency. Stare into this dream catcher and I'm going to guess your favorite episode of I Love Lucy. I'm sitting there like, "Anna, just play along. You're an actor. This is where you act. You fucking go along with this." And I'm sitting there. I'm like, it's only going to be one of 2 episodes. No one remembers any other episode besides the chocolate one or Vitamita Vegemin. And I was like, I was like, it's going to be one of those. And I'm thinking that in my head. And she stuff she says, it's like, it's the chocolate episode where she puts them in her mouth. And I was like, "Oh, you are good." She goes, "Been an agent for 45 years. And I was like, okay.
Fucking hilarious.
It was wild.
I love someone who thinks they're psychic because everyone they ask questions to is in a position where they want them to like them.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
really think like, I know what I'm talking about. It's also though, like looking back, I think there was a different time where there were less actors and they really were looking for they're always looking for stunningly beautiful people, but also like super talented. But then with the influx, it's like a college client, someone right out of college has nothing to offer unless they walk in a room and everyone goes, "Holy shit," or their talent is out of this world, legendary,
or their dad is a director in Hollywood, a producer on Broadway.
So they pick their schools. They're like Carnegie, Juilliard, whatever, and Michigan or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, we can use that credit to pitch them to casting directors." Like there's just this self-reinforcing system where, for example, we were of the same era where to be in commercials, you had to have UCB training on your resume. Mm-hmm. You could have lied. And there's plenty of people at that point, UCB, it's not like it was that selective. But it became this self-reinforcing credit that everyone had to have. And it's the same with the colleges. So it's either like, go to a college that has that and it's only a couple and they're very hard to get into, or go to a place like NYU where at least you're meeting, 1,000 people, many of whom are going to become producers or write for Time Out magazine.
Right.
Or just don't go to college if you really want. Or go for something else, or go be a movie, go be a writer. But it's just a different era. And I feel bad for people. I think there's some people out there who aren't good writers. Daniel Day-Lewis never had to write plays or sketches or TikToks. I don't envy it, and I'm glad to be a stand-up comedian as opposed to an actor first, because it was a miserable waiting lifestyle.
Yeah, I want to know when that shifted for you, because it sounds like you were really in the thick of the acting world with these workshops and becoming a reader and auditioning, and right? You were like, doing it.
I made good money like doing non-union. Before I had to join SAG, I was doing a lot of non-union commercials. None of them like broke the bank, were crazy money, but like I was the baby bottle pop spokesman, and every time they did a new flavor, they'd have to bring me back in to be like new raspberry jam.
Nice.
And it's like $500 for 30 minutes. And I did all sorts of that non-union work, investigation discovery, where the crime reenactment stuff.
Yes.
Where, you do sloppily rehearsed, like, abusive husband, smash her head through a wall. And you'd film like an insane number of what would be an Oscar-winning role, like in terms of the journey your character took. But you'd film it in 6 hours and you'd have just pizza for lunch. But it was cool in its own way. You're filming in a courtroom and you're testifying and there's no lines. You're improvising everything. And then you'd be paid $50. And I remember once I was in Ireland and someone recognized me in Ireland from Investigation Discovery. And I was like, man, I was paid $50 for that shit. Mm-hmm. And it was aired in Ireland.
I love that.
So those shows, they were called like Stalked and Over My Dead Body and Mommy Monsters or something. So I made a smorgasbord of like those kind of gigs, little one lines on Blue Bloods. Mm-hmm. And then But
you were mostly acting. Like you were like, did you have a day job at the time, or you were just like, I'm going to do all of these random gigs?
All of these random gigs. I did a little bit of extra work for Wolf of Wall Street. That was pretty unbearable. I remember, I mean, this is sad, but at Wolf of Wall Street, I remember I was working on Wolf of Wall Street when Sandy Hook happened. And, and I was like, oh, this has been an extra tough day for me now. It's so horrible. That was a joke, by the way. Don't worry. I someone laughed. And it was being an extra is, God bless people who do it. I have no judgment of people who make their living doing extra work, of course. But I was a non-union extra on a SAG production. That means that when lunch is ready, SAG goes first. And then you get the watermelon rinds after them. This particular job, this was a lot of men. This was one of these boardroom scenes for like 300 male extras, male energy, just in the background. And we were like fucking around. You're not supposed to bring your phone. And people were putting Post-its on people's backs. And I remember at some point, the first director walkie-talkie to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and said, guys, Marty Scorsese said someone walked by and they had a Post-it on their back that said, I have herpes. We need to cut the shit. And it's extra work is hard. There's a lot of people there who like, some are delusional. Some talk about it like this is a step closer.
Yes.
And for me, it just felt like I was getting to witness my dreams in front of me. Like it's like if the girl of your dreams were making love to Leonardo DiCaprio on top of you. And you're like, well, I guess I'm here. I'm in the room. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But just deflating. So yeah, I did a smorgasbord, and whenever the acting work dried up, I would try to do some catering. Mm-hmm. And the catering, a very, very tough work. Sometimes the gigs would be good and pay $25 an hour. But looking back at it now, as I got older, I would just start stealing shit. I stole a champagne bottle. There's this one gig, it was Macy's Fashion Day or something. Okay. And it was funny because we had to serve samples of champagne. And these kids would run up, and 15-year-old, clearly underage children, and you're holding a tray of champagne and people are mobbing you. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Yell at I'm put in a position where I'm not a bartender. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be serving alcohol. And that was the day that I stole a bottle with a fellow worker, and we got drunk off that, and that was fun.
Nice.
But then I was lucky. I got this General Electric gig. This is when I started doing SAG commercials. Mm-hmm. And this General Electric gig was like, there was a time where you book a commercial at my house, but commercials, we were right around the time where online commercials took hold. The money for them was garbage. SAG didn't want to negotiate a shitty contract, so a lot of them went non-union. We lost a lot of work. I mean, when I first started commercial work, and again, this was even when online was starting, I used to audition 7 times a week. And now if I get one a month sometimes, it's like a good month. It really changed.
Yeah, it's totally different now. I remember that. And the first week I got, like the first like month I was working with my commercial agent, I had all these auditions. I booked a job like within a first few weeks. I was like, I love this world. They flew me to Chicago. I was like a fucking movie star. And then you come back and cut to like the next year, it's like less and less. And it's like, am I not doing a good job? Oh no, the industry's changing. And
immensely.
Unfortunately, I'm in the union. And so they're not going to send me out for the and then I'd see all these people getting stuff. And then I'm like, oh, they're non-union projects. Like yeah.
I did so many. I did one in a dog costume. That's how I got my first agent. I booked it only because I was 6'3", and I was in a dog costume. They said I might get paid extra if they said maybe the director will have you lift up the head. So the whole time I was in the background, I'd lift up the head, and they'd always go, cut. Dog guy in the back, put the head down.
Keep it on.
But it was funny because I got paid extra for like the print ad where it was me in the dog costume. So you can't see me, but I got, $16.50 for just sitting there in a dog costume. But I got this General Electric gig, and it was a SAG gig, and it was like 3 commercials. And it was like they didn't air it like you can get an AT&T commercial and make 6 figures because they air that shit everywhere.
Nonstop, yeah.
This was more targeted ads, but it was like a big deal. And it played, Colbert's first show. I remember it played SNL's return. It played. And it was like this bold comedic direction where General Electric was kind of making fun of themselves. And I was the guy who just got hired for GE. And that gig, what paid even more than just the residuals from that gig was there were a lot of live corporate events where GE would just fork over fucking money for me to go to. I went to Boca Raton, New Orleans, and then the last one was Vegas, like a massive event in Vegas. And I got paid $15,000 for the day.
Holy shit.
And flying first class per SAG rules, flying first class, $15,000, driven to the airport, driven to the hotel, meals. They even gave me money to gamble with. And it was really hard not to. I ended up spending a gigantic portion of that money on filming a sketch series, Matza Pizza.
That's good, though.
It's good. I wish I could have filmed 3 less sketches and had a more pleasant couple of years. But
at least you didn't say, you said I spent a lot of money. I was like, oh no, he sat at that slot machine for hours that night.
Thank God.
At least you put it back into your work, which, helped you.
We did one Snapchat campaign where like they flew me somewhere else and I had climbed a wind tower and I got $5,000. It was like, sick. And then they did 3 more commercials that were not as good. And I knew from the script that like they were going in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. But it was like, it was pretty surreal, and I couldn't help but feel like, oh, I've made it to this next rung. Unfortunately, as you kind of find the world between commercial and legit TV film, it's a big line. Mm-hmm. And some people have made the transition, like the AT&T girl has a big acting career. One of the SNL guys, I forget it, Beck Bennett, was like the AT&T guy, but they had other things going for them. But like, there really is just this divide. Yeah. And it's surreal to be on TV on a regular basis and feel like you're treated like a prince and you're making money and you can't get in for a one line on Law and Order SVU.
Right. It's so true. There is such a divide. And they don't explain that to you in acting school, I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. But it was a huge blessing. And this was right around, funnily enough, like right when my parents really started cutting me off, right when I booked that commercial. And, there's always this mix where I think like, if I ever had kids and if I ever had money when I had those kids, it's tough to know. I think to a certain degree, I like wallowed in training and classes and workshops as opposed to being really proactive with constantly thinking of like what's going to elevate me forward. I was always like, what's going to make me a better artist, a better actor, a better singer, whatever. Yeah. And I think unfortunately that mindset was not, it was just too much one direction. I feel the same with stand-up sometimes, where I'm very much like, just make the stand-up better. I'm like, no, go hang out here. Go talk to this.
That's so true. And you're so jaded at that point. You don't know, better. Like, I think back to then as well, and I'm like, why? I appreciate, I was going to say, it sounds like when I was at UCB and I was like trying all the, I was like, I'm not getting on the team I want to get on. Like, every time I did something on my own, I went out and I just made a sketch or I shot something, like I got further somewhere else. So it's always, you have to be able to get out of your head sometimes.
It's
and
hard,
not.
but UCB, like, I sort of wish I had started at UCB. Again, I tried to like game the industry, meet all the casting directors, I'll skip it. And I had just been in an acting company that failed. So the idea of like joining another cult felt like I've been down this rabbit hole before. It does not end well. But like I sympathize certainly with people who, I think sometimes people are more mad at UCB or they're mad at things that aren't quite fair. But UCB felt like it was going to promise you that, or like, if you really put in the work here, and sometimes it's just like, man, I don't know what to tell you. Shannon might just doesn't dig you. And like, you know what? That means that you can't advance here. Until there's a new person, you just have to find it somewhere else. But I get it's hard. When you're younger, you're like, oh no, I think I can break through. Oh no, I think I can make Maud. I think I can make Lloyd. And, I went into UCB a little later. I got to the final callbacks for Maud. I didn't get it. And I think I was far enough, or I had other things going on, that I was like, sucks.
Oh, well, yeah.
Seems cool. I feel envy for people who got to do the Maud thing. It's just not going to happen.
But I was going to say, you found your way, because you say you were in all these workshops, you're doing that. But then I see you, at least when I met you, you were already doing your sketch team, which was is very successsuccessful, right? You guys still do shows, and you were doing stand-up, you were making videos. I think you won Quickie Fest the first time
I did. I met
you.
That was very cool.
Which was a film festival I did, So
I again, with a different commercial, I did a German soda commercial that filmed in Cape Town, Africa.
Wow.
Crazy gig. This was like, this one, commercials were good, man. I didn't even have a callback. The commercial was in German. They dubbed us.
What?
Me and a guy named Jeff Solomon. They couldn't find who they wanted in Germany, London, Brussels, Cape Town, Africa. They went to New York, one audition. I flew to South Africa the next day.
Holy shit. They didn't even need to call you back. They were like, he's the guy. He's
$10,000, treated like a prince. And I used that money to put a play in the Fringe Festival that I wrote. And it had a lot of like monologuing, storytelling. And ultimately went off Broadway for a run. But along that journey, I had a friend, Lindsay Elizabeth Hand, who produced Matzo Pizza, my sketch series. She saw us do a reading, and she and I'd done stand up here and there, and I felt like I was one of those actors who said, like, I'm also a stand up, and real stand ups would have, spit in my face. Rightfully so. But I was good at it. Something about stand up I was good at. I'm not saying all of it, but like something about what that is. And I did this play, I did a reading, and Lindsay took me out to lunch, and I still credit her or blame her, depending on how I'm feeling, very emotionally was like, you should do this. And I had done I'd done an open mic once at the Creek in the Cave in the basement with all these dudes. And I was like, I guess this is not for me. But
that's how I felt at the Creek in the Cave when I went to that open mic too. I was like, oh. I
would have started stand up years earlier if I had gone to a different mic. I'm sure of it. But I kind of sat down, and I was a lonely boy. I wasn't social, and doing stand up it's a different life. Sometimes I'm still blown away that every night I'm out. I get home at 1 a.m, average, from shitty trains back from late shows.
Yeah. And
I had a sit down, and I was like, let's actually try to do this. And I think because of the General Electric commercials and my TV credits, it got me into some places a little bit sooner than I might have otherwise. And I think I did a good job of recognizing oh, there's something about this I'm not good at, which was the writing jokes part. And I just went kind of crazy. I just went crazy in terms of doing the roast battles and writing. And I worked with Kevin Labson at the time, because I was thinking, I was coming from a playwriting mindset. So I wrote out everything. And Kevin, I hired to basically just kind of sit and say these ideas, laughing, and I just like gradually learned what like jokes were, and you know,
did the work.
I did the work, and I mean, then I did LOL. When I got into LOL, which is like a rough club, I did check spots, and when I got into check spots, I must have done every 90% of those check spots, 4 shows a night for like a year. Wow. And I did. That's the time where I'm like, I earned whatever came after that, because that was brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
brutal.
I appreciate that you did the work, though, because I think you're a very funny writer, and I love your jokes. And now you're killing on TikTok, right? You're putting a lot of your stand-up jokes on there. I see him. I see him. He's got such a good style. It's like your face. It's only your face, and I'm like, oh, only someone with good skin can do this kind of a TikTok. Like I need like 4 filters on. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh.
Well, I've been criticized on it before. I eat a lot of carrots, and I think like I eat so many carrots, like a bag of carrots a day. It's crazy.
What's your secret? I eat a bag of carrots a day.
I think the carrots, this happened to me when I was a baby. I think they were making me a little bit orange.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Carotene makes you orange. Mm-hmm. So I was getting a lot of, they stopped it. It's because I cut back on the carrots. A lot of comments about how I look jaundiced. And I was like, wow, how do these 8-year-olds even know the word jaundiced? But I was getting a lot of comments about how orange I was looking. And I was oh. So I did luck out in the skin department generally.
That's good.
But they let me know when I've had a bad night's sleep. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ellen knows when I used to host on HQ every night, there was a point where, I don't know, I wore a dress, and we're always criticized for what we're wearing. You know what I mean? My parents didn't even know how to play my game. They would just sign on to see if the people liked my outfit or not. And they'd tell me after. And there was a night where I guess they kept writing Anna's pregnant in the chat, right? Do you remember this, Ellen? And it was like, and they feed off of each other. So if one person writes it, 40,000 people write it over and over and over again. And every night it started happening. You know, I'd wear like the tightest outfit I could wear to show I'm not pregnant.
You're punching yourself in the stomach.
I'm like, I'm fine. Are you kidding? I took 6 birth control today. And then so there was a point where I was like, can we ban it? And because we would ban things from the chat because, people would say a lot of mean things. So they had to ban Anna's pregnant.
Do you think it was, though, maybe you had a glow? Maybe it was the pregnancy glow?
I don't know. But I was very offended by it. Like, more than someone saying, like, you look ugly, I hate your dress. I'm like, why are they calling me pregnant? I worked really hard to not get pregnant.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But I get it.
Imagine. I mean, listen, I know every time I go through social media stuff, I'm like, I know women deal with a whole different dimension. I rarely get called anything. It's mostly gay men writing me high praise.
That's nice.
Praise that I don't deserve. And, God bless the internet.
I love it. Well, you seem to be killing it right now, and you have this new podcast out. So I want you to tell everybody where they can find it, where they can listen to more of your stories and everything.
Yes, please. It's called The Downside. I'm very happy. It took a long time to figure out a podcast I really wanted to do. I have guests on, but we just talk about all the negatives of their life. I like to kvetch, complain, criticize.
I love this. It's kind of similar to Unemployed. It feels in the same vein as Unemployed. I could have called it the Employed Podcast. We talk about jobs you had, but
yeah, sure, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. I know, like when I was dating, like I knew it wasn't going to work out if someone was like, you like to complain a lot. I'm like, yeah, that's how I communicate. I can be having a great time and be complaining about things. That's just, yeah. And people say it's Jewish, but I guess it's part of our culture, I guess, to complain. But the podcast is just kind of, it's a place where people don't have to. I feel like there's so many podcasts where people feel like they're kind of spokesmen for mental health or spokesmen for like living a good life. And I'm like, you don't have to be.
Right.
Or so it's like at the end we do this has got to stop. We talk about something that in society or for someone's personal life needs to go away forever.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end we say one blessing for all, the positive people listening.
It's beautiful.
It's a great podcast. And you can watch full episodes on YouTube, find it everywhere you get your podcast. But I'm really proud of it.
Cool. Well, congratulations. And where can people find you online? All your handles? Hit me with them.
I'm the only Gianmarco Soresi out there in the world. So find me TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Rizzle, if you're on Rizzle, at Gianmarco Soresi. And I post all my upcoming shows over on my Instagram.
Awesome.
Or go to my website, gianmarcosoresi.com, sign up for the email for all the tour dates.
Yeah, I hope, fingers crossed for your tour dates. I hope it works out for you. And thanks for being here. You're awesome. I love talking to you. This was fun because I feel like I was in a workshop with you, I'm sure, however long ago that was. I'm 23, so it's hard to say,
Sure.
Mentally.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's it. Everybody go find him everywhere and definitely watch his TikToks. You're killing it. And tell The Rock I said hi next time you guys
I will.
Communicate. Okay.
We're going to go take a shower.
Oh, what a good episode. I love him. He's so much fun and he's got so many good stories and he's so honest about everything. I'm glad his podcast lets you vent,
Mm-hmm.
You need a place like that.
What's a Rizzle?
Oh, I think it's an app. It's an app or website that does short content, like funny videos and stuff.
I'm gonna have to look it up, man.
Yeah,
something new.
I have a friend who was working for it, and she asked me to make them stuff, and it was kind of in the height of the pandemic, and I think I just kind of forgot until he mentioned that. I was like, oh right, that. Yeah, maybe I'll revisit it. Oh my God, he brought me back. It's so true. Commercials, like as an I've wanted to be an actor since I was like born. So you always think like I would never do commercials. Those are like, why would I like vacuum and like that's acting? That's not acting.
No.
And then you graduate college and you quickly learn like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to be an actor unless I get a commercial, right? Like he was saying, he was able to put a play in the festival and do all these things because you have this money coming in from your 2 days of being on a commercial where you have like one line. But then you think, oh, well, now I'll be on TV because I'm already on TV. It's such a weird system.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are so successful in commercials and then they can't get into TV. Like, like I think about Flo a lot. You know what I mean? The progressive lady. Like, because she's a comedic actress and I'm sure, and she's probably super funny and she could be on all these funny sitcoms and stuff, but it's hard because people have really gotten to know her as this character that it would probably make other productions like weary of hiring her because it's like, well,
I would love to hear from her about that. I'm sure she probably can't or something. She probably signed like 1,000,008 NDAs.
Maybe one day we'll have her on the podcast and we'll be like, Flo, tell us about it. I mean, I'm a nobody right now, so it'd be cool. It'd be cool to hear that perspective. But well, I'm glad he's doing well with it, and it sounds like you get a couple of those SAG ones in the beginning. Ooh, baby,
those sound nice.
I know. Ellen, I thought I was just going to be rich. As soon as I booked one, I was like, wow, it is great to be a commercial actor. Yeah. And then you realize it's like winning the fucking lottery. And like, it happens every so often.
Yeah.
And, no matter what you do, you cut your hair, you dye your hair, you wear glasses, you don't wear glasses. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
such a tease.
It's like, oh God. Yeah, it really is. You're like working on commercials now, right? Like, kind of, or like
I'm
branded.
working on those. Yeah, branded content's not the same as a commercial.
No, but I feel like branded content became so huge in the last bunch of years that's why
I know. Yeah,
we don't need these expensive
that's what you were
SAG
basically
commercials.
talking about. I was like, right. Well, that's what I do. I'm the one paying those awful rates. Yeah,
because all these big brands are like, we don't need to spend all this money. We can get away with it by advertising on social media and putting in a quarter of the amount of money or whatever it is.
Or also like all of their money went into television at one point, and then they were like, oh, people don't watch television all the time anymore. And now we have to like spend money on all this other stuff.
Yeah, everyone will spend whatever it is, $7.99 a month to have. If you have cable, they will spend that money to get a DVR so you can fast forward through commercials. Because I don't know many people aside from my mom who sit down and watch their shows in real time. My mom the other night, I swear to God, last night I called her. We're talking and she goes, Anna, 8:59, gotta go. White Lotus starts in 1 minute, and I was like, Bitch, you have HBO Max, you have HBO Go, you have a DVR, you have all you can watch it. You could literally watch it in 5 minutes, but she doesn't think that way.
Yeah, even my dad, who like doesn't even have a smartphone, knows how to use a DVR, so he can watch his like he like DVRs the news. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah.
My mom will DVR, you'll love this, like tennis tournaments. There will be like the men's finals in Wimbledon, and my mom will be like, "Don't tell me I have it DVR'd. I'm watching it tomorrow night." And I'll be like,
yeah,
what?
You're definitely
like,
not looking at Twitter or anything.
No,
like
she doesn't look at Twitter. Yeah. You know, no one's going to really post that on Instagram. If she goes on Instagram, that's the one she doesn't have Facebook. So like she's legit like able, and that life must be so nice, you know? I think about that. I think about how like, wow, she's so excited to watch this live sporting event that happened and made news headlines all over the world. She's going to watch it tomorrow night and will be just as surprised as everyone else was.
That's I kind of envy that, you know?
I know.
It's such a fresh take on everything.
It's simpler.
Yeah,
it's easier.
simple.
I get mad when like Jared was like trying to tell me his theories of who dies in the White Lotus. And like, I was like, I don't want to guess. I don't like it. I like to sit down and just be entertained. I'll think about it throughout the episode, but I don't want to hear anyone else's theory. Like, same with reviews of movies. Mm-hmm. Like if there's a movie and I like the trailer or I like that actor or I have, you know, my heart set on seeing it. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear anything.
I avoid at all costs. Like especially with movies that I think are going to be terrible even. Like, I want to know for myself why they're terrible, so I avoid.
Right? Do not, like, Cats was hard. People spoiled Cats before I even went to the theater, and I was, you know... But it bothers me. It really does. I always say they're too hyped up. Like, Hamilton, I mean, you know... that's a great example. I spent years and years playing that lottery to try and see it, Hamilton, and then I eventually went to go see it, and everyone had already like talked about it so much and who they liked and do they, you know, Lynn versus the new guy versus like I literally heard way too much, and I was like, it's not enjoyable. Oh, it's a good show, but it wasn't the same as what it would have been.
Yeah. No, you got to keep it fresh. You know, keep some excitement in there. Don't spoil things for yourself.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe we should just not read Twitter news for an entire week.
Sometimes when I get so busy and I don't read Twitter for a while, it's nice.
Is it?
Yeah,
you feel good? You feel healthy?
Yeah, and then you have like one day where you kind of just catch up on all the stuff that happened, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's good. How was your work? How's work? I just wanted to ask you before we sign off.
Oh, you know, let me just tell you. So I went out of town for work, and guess what I did? I went to Atlanta, and guess what? There's a serial killer in Atlanta right now. And I said, this is a perfect time to watch Mayor of Easttown. So I binged the whole show, and it was amazing. And that's a show I didn't read any spoilers for.
Because there was a serial killer out? Wait, hold on. Because there was a serial killer out, so you were like, I better not go out to the bars tonight. I could get murdered.
This is so scary. Let me watch a show that's kind of like what's happening in the real world.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I did. And
did you love?
I loved it. It was amazing.
So I'm so glad you enjoyed it so much, and that it wasn't spoiled for you.
It was hard actually to start watching it while I was out of town for work because I just didn't want to work. I wanted to watch Mayor of Easttown.
Got it. Yeah, I get that. That's great. Are you watching The White Lotus?
No. So what is? What?
Catch up before next Sunday.
Okay.
It's the news. It's honestly, since Mayor, my favorite show to watch, which I guess that wasn't that long ago, but still, they're like my two favorites of the year.
All right. I'm going to have to.
You're going to love it. I know your humor. It's very like dark humor. You know what I mean?
Okay. I love it. Yeah.
But honestly, if you should binge it now because Sunday's the finale.
I got to catch up
at
real
9
fast.
p.m. And Lee Roisman will be watching at 9 p.m. on Sunday. So, you know, nobody ruin it. If you get a sneak preview. Wait, there was something else I wanted to say. I can't remember what I was going to say. We got to end this episode. This was so fun. Gianmarco is a dream guest. I'm so glad he was on. And we haven't recorded in a while. This feels nice again. We got a couple coming up. So guys, support the pod. Go listen. The last episode was Joe Firestone. Amazing, amazing episode. Definitely go and listen to it. I'm saying that now because we had a little issue with Apple. So the way it rolled out was not it was not smooth like all the other episodes.
There's a glitch of sorts.
There was a glitch, and I have the email from Apple Podcasts to prove it. Anyway, go listen to it. Check out all the other episodes out. Send in your stories to unemployedpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to talk to some of you if you ever want to be on the podcast and tell your unemployment story, weird job stories. We're going to do some crowdsourcing episodes, so send them in. Let us know, and that's it. Find us online. I hope you guys are all employed, and I love you. Goodbye. Right now, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who has supported our Patreon. This is your shout out right here from me. Tons of love. And if you haven't checked out our Patreon, all of our videos go up there. Sometimes I just write fun things because I feel like it. And it's just a really nice way to support us at Unemployed and, so we can keep this thing going. We do it for nothing. We do it for fun. We do it for you to listen to. So definitely check out the Patreon. And right now, huge shout out to our patrons, Bill Horton, Chi of Steele, Danielle McCartney, Lori Jackson, Jeannie Logan. We got Joe Galati, Chris Arneson, Jordan Lucero, Oscar Yuen, Ken Levin, and Vic Terry. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much it means to us, and I appreciate you, and I see you, and I love you.